So I wanted to talk to Michael today because, as I say, he is the managing director of VetCX, and he's created quite a unique business that assists veterinary practices around Australia.
What we've tried to do at VetCX is really design those products and services that can help practices to enhance just purely their client experience. So, we do nothing to do with clinical ability within practice. It's all about the customer experience. And that's, I guess, where we focus. So by giving them the ability to see from a customer's eyes what's happening when they look at their practice, helps them to tweak some simple things that really can make life easier as a pet owner interacting with that business. Our phone calls that go into veterinary practices are non-clinical emergencies, but they should always result in that owner being offered the opportunity to come into the practice. So, but of those phone calls that we make, less than 20% of those people are offered an appointment. So out of all of those phone calls, it's really hard to believe that we make those calls and 80% of them go without any sort of offer of saying, look, I understand you sound really concerned about Fluffy. Why don't we make an arrangement for Fluffy to come and see one of our vets and make sure that all's okay? I guess what's even more, from a customer experience, and both where you've been, Peter, and where I've been, it's been drilled into our brain, even when we were both back in the front line back in those days around really engaging with the people. But, just the simple thing of asking the person's name that you're interacting with and using that throughout the discussion. I mean, less than 9% of our phone calls were ever asked what our name is, let alone used it in those conversations. So I guess that connection where is really lost.
Yeah, great opportunity. So it's in the experience, most phone calls by far and away are simply transactional, are they? Just like seeking information, giving information, and that's it, no further engagement.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really question answer. How much is? Then the response is, where just some simple things where, asking some extra questions, like the simple things like, what's your name? Who am I talking to? Great. And what's your pet's name? Okay, it's Rufus. Fantastic. Those different things go a long, long way into building that rapport.
Yeah.
But it's like anything. Teach your team some new skills. So their reception team or their customer care team, just do some basic training with them. And we've seen our clients make, amazing improvements just by tweaking some simple things like, using the owner's name and using the pet's name. If you only change those two things, then you've got a completely different dynamic. The biggest learning curves from our clients initially when they come on board with VetCX is just by doing a month's worth of, mystery shopping and finding out, what's actually going on. So it's, it's all the time, so it's, pet owners don't, consider what time's busy in practice or, when should they and shouldn't they call. The calls go into practices at random times throughout the week, and all you're getting is a snapshot of what your client experiences when they call your business. I mean, it's pretty vital to know what's happening from that perspective. But I think the next step now, and what owners and practice managers are saying to us now is, okay, I think we've got the phones 50, 60, 70% better now, but how do we go one step further? And that's really how do we help the vets within the consult room to have better customer interactions. And so we've been lucky enough to, join forces with Dr. Claire, and she's a previous practice owner. She's just recently released her own book, which is around dogs and care and so forth. She's a bit of a media personality, so she's done a bit of media as well. But more importantly, she's been there and done that herself. And she's, I guess, a lot of her success as a vet has been around honing the skills of the consult. So taking into account the customer or the client, and how can she change her language, her positioning within the consult room, from all the way from the start to the end, and critiquing that. But now she's been able to put all that into an e-learning program, which VetCX offers, which is a self-paced learning guide where vets, just when they've got the opportunity, can spend a little bit of time just honing those skills. And that, one of the personal observations for myself, if I think back as being a pet owner and going into a practice, is, my impression of going into a vet practice, or, typically any, call it any medical practice, whether that be the dentist or the doctor, you know, 9 times out of 10, I think we're greeted with some lady on the phone who's got the phone on the elbow and she's typing away, and she sometimes, or he or she sometimes does acknowledge you or sometimes doesn't, but you're standing in that reception area just sort of in limbo waiting.
Yep.
Sometimes they'll take another call before they even acknowledge you. But, you know, that's was my impression. Imagine if you could just take the phone, eliminate the phone from the practice, and be able to focus solely on the person who's in that practice with you. So the client walks in and you're able to give them a warm greeting. And in the case of our vets, you know, be able to get down on the knee and give the dog a nice pat and let them give you a bit of a lick and make them feel warm. I mean, that's a whole different perception of being able to walk into a practice where someone's on the phone and does or doesn't acknowledge you. And that's what led me to the VCare product with VetCare, which was really around how do we help vet practices to do a number of things with their telephones. Our VCare product is only veterinary practices. That's what we specialise in. Our team are experienced clinicians. And we have access to their practice management software. So if a client calls, they're concerned, they're worried, we book the client straight in. We go through, you know, and give them the Rolls Royce of customer experience that we train and coach. And that's what we manage our people on, is, you know, practicing what we preach. And that's the big part. But, you know, and looking at some of our clients in the initial 3 months that they've been doing it, you know, we've been, you know, lifting their appointments by, you know, 60 or 70 per month, you know, which is around 10, 15%. We've been lifting their average consult fee just by offering some extra products and services which tie them to that practice more. So, I mean, it has a lot of benefit, but not only that, the people within the practice, so there's so many other financial benefits that go along with it, is your people are happy because they can actually have a lunch break. And people watching here, Peter, like we said before, if they are in a veterinary practice and they would like to get a quick snapshot, we're happy to offer them, you know, 1 month at no cost for them as a special, just to get an idea, so they can get a flavour for what their clients are experiencing.
Fantastic. So that's 4 calls over the month at random times. They get a full report and benchmarking, just to get that litmus test of where they're actually sitting.
Yeah, and I think some of the things that you take away from that is just listening to, you know, if a call comes in at 9 o'clock on a Monday, we all know in veterinary practice it's, you know, frantically busy on Monday at 9 o'clock. So what are the steps that you can do to actually change that? You know, also gives you great development opportunities. So we always recommend with our mystery shopping program that, you know, at the end of the month, you know, if Mary had one of the mystery shopping calls, that, you know, you send the call to her, have a one-on-one with her and just talk through that phone call with her. Yeah, it's very initially confronting to hear yourself in a recording, and we all hate it, but, you know, once you get used to it, there's actually some real learnings. And I think we've got to get to a place where we can untap that barrier, break through that. But then, you know, listening to that call, you know, you can share it with them and say, you know, I think this went really well. When the client asked you this question, what did you think? You know, I think that they were actually asking this, and maybe next time use this term, explain that. And you watch next time Mary takes that call, that call is quite different because she's become conscious. It's like training, you know, if we don't train, or what we don't measure will never change. So, yeah, I think back to your question, I would say at least just, you know, take an initial snapshot of what's going on with your clients.